Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 11th of November, 2022 Node API meeting. Before we get started with our usual agenda, does anybody have any announcements they would like to make? Nope. All right. So then let me share my screen and we will go through the normal agenda. Share. All right, so here's our milestones. The first one we have is drive towards full coverage. Jack is not on, but I did take a look at his latest commit to the thread safe function new tests, because a while ago I mentioned that some were missing, and it looks like he added those. So this one is good to go. And I don't believe there are any others. Nick created this one, and I saw Chengzong that you made some comment about this here. I do remember we had discussed either using an environmental variable or a runtime flag. And if whatever approach we decide, whether environmental variable or runtime flag, if that is not present, then use the file system as a determiner. And I believe he's only using the file system, because he made this comment that the build directory could not be cleaned under some circumstances. So the person who's running the tests may have some unexpected behavior with running them. So I think this is valid. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss about this?
No, I believe I have to say, or I know in the comment.
Yeah. Okay. Then that is it for anything test related. There was this one for fixing. Oh,
yeah.
Yes,
I believe this can be merged since it's a very small change.
Right. For fixing this here. So we can go ahead and merge that. Okay, then, whoops. That's it for testing. Then moving on to other issues in the milestone. We have better coverage in YouTube. I don't think there are, does anybody have any updates regarding this? I do not.
No, but I don't know if previously we have introduced like a list of different YouTube videos, just to let you know, existing videos.
Where are we thinking of making this list available?
I think like Nick's proposal was to create some pages inside of this API stable node and point to these pages from our Node API documentation. So we need to work.
That does sound familiar, except I think that was for the language bindings.
Right.
Yes, create a page in stable and link to in the core documentation. However, I do think this approach would also work for the YouTube videos. So let's just add that as a comment here. in another Node API meeting of where do we put links to videos. The best approach would be something similar to what we plan for the node bindings list, where we create a new page in Node repo, which lists the videos and PR and a link to the page and the yes. All right. Let's go ahead and make this comment. Yeah, because otherwise, if there's no central location for these links, then it might be very difficult to find. Okay.
Yeah, looks good.
Anything else regarding YouTube coverage? Nope. All right. Then the next one that we had is the C bindings list. And we have this one. I don't believe Nick is on the call, but we do have work going on in the documentation. 439, I think that's what this is. Yeah, so that just links to that issue. This is going into API stable node to create this page. So then once this gets approved and merged into API stable node, then we can link to this document inside the Node.js core API documentation.
I'm curious, should we keep this name? Like I think Nick named it's a Node-API MD. So, okay, we'll have just single page for now. Okay.
Yes. That's true. The name for the file is a little ambiguous, I would say. Maybe it would be better to call it node runtime bindings or something like that.
I think at this point, probably his intent to have just one Uber page, maybe later splitting up. I don't know.
Well, this is, yeah, I mean, this is a completely new file. I guess it would make sense if, like he was adding this as, a portion in an existing file, but I don't really think it makes sense to be named this. Let me just go ahead and make a comment then. Since this
from the point of view, like if we want to have a reference from main Node API documentation.
Right. To engine bindings. Okay. Nope, got to put in the header here. And then Chengzong made a comment here. Should we add words on a no endorsement by the listed runtimes and no affiliation with the organizations? I think that does make sense. Because it may be that they see these bindings on our documentation page, and then they may make a comment in our ABI stable node, make an issue or something, asking for help or support or anything like that. So I'm just going to one-up that one.
And Kevin, can we change your comment a bit? Like instead of an API, say Node API?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay.
It's been like a year and a half, and old habits die hard. All right. Anything else? Okay. Then let's make that comment. All right. That's it for that. Then we have tracking issues. I don't think there's been any new comments here. But we always go here. And I noticed earlier that we finally breached the 10 million weekly downloads. Woo! Good for us. And regarding the version, we did create an issue here. Version. I thought I did. Okay, we're gonna do author Kevin. New release, here we go, yes. And these are some of the PRs that we're wanting to merge into this. We will talk about this one when we go through the stale issues. So that is it for tracking modules ported. Enable debug testing. This is something that Michael's working on, and I do not believe there's been any additional context put here. Nope. Then we have stale issues. All right, here we go. Let's do it. So we have 441. This one is one that we added a core PR for that. And this is the creation of that new status, an API, no external buffers allowed. This one was merged a couple days ago. I think like 2 days ago. Yes, landed. So this has been landed, and Michael also commented that it would be good to get it back ported to 14. Any questions regarding this stale issue?
Remove it
Should we remove it? That was my next question. I mean, I think so, because there's really no additional work for us to do. You know, like once this gets landed, then Electron needs to update their base in order to get that new API functionality. And then likewise, module owners would need to update their code. So I'm going to close this. Oh, I don't have access in this repository. Okay, well, I'll just write. And then maybe Michael can close it out. Copy. Okay. Gotta put the header. All right. Anything else?
Looks good.
All right. That's that. Okay, close that. Then we have this one, unbound memory. this is the one that we've been talking about with the feature bits and whatnot. And I think this is a good segue into the document that Legendicast has created here. Chengzong, would you like to sort of talk about this document?
Yeah. Previously we have discussed about adding a document so that we can let's say collect the ideas about how can we reach out to the add-on authors and the other libraries, other language libraries that depend on the Node API authors. So this is a document about the problem we have around the runtime version semantics and the proposed solution and our future plans on the solutions, like how, let's say, how add-ons can benefit from the change. And they can gain performance, they can get performance gains, and they can get new features over time. So that's the document. That's the whole ideas about the document. And please feel free to comment on the document if you find there is anything we can add in the document. And I believe we will need to publish this document either in the Node.js core repo as an issue, so that we can guide people to that issue to comment on it. So they won't need to comment on this document.
Right. Okay. I did take a look and read through it a bit. I did have a question regarding this sentence here. If an add-on targeting Node API version 8, Node.js 10 can refuse to load this add-on as it is compiled with Node API version 7. Is this supposed to be an 8?
I checked that Node.js 10 is kept with Node API version 7. So yeah.
Okay. So this, when you're saying it is compiled, it is the actual Node.js engine.
Yeah, right.
Gotcha.
And
okay.
This sentence is about the assumption about the future Node.js version. Since right now we cannot backport any checks to Node.js v10, since v10 is already out of maintenance. So the idea here is that currently, if the add-on is compiled with a newer version and they didn't use any symbols, any functions in the newer versions, then they can be loaded into the older versions of Node.js, since there are no checks. There is no checks on if the Node.js is supporting the newer Node API versions. The only checks is that if the symbols is available, which is done by the linkers, runtime linkers. So currently there is no runtime checks. So with this flags runtime semantics built into the Node API, then we can verify that the add-on is compiled with a newer version of Node API. But currently you are using a Node.js version that doesn't support that newer Node API version, then the node can reject reject to load that add-on and complain about it, you are using a old Node.js version and you probably need to upgrade.
Right. So in the context of some of the issues that we want to address, such as the uncaught exception emitting and the create reference for strong references and the eagerly invoke the finalize callback. So let's say that we end up changing the engine behavior to fix those issues or have those changes. Now, so say a add-on is compiled for, a specific node version, or not node version, node add-on version. And then we make those changes to that behavior. Would those changes for that behavior mean that we have to update the Node API version?
Yeah, the feature will only be applied to the add-on if the add-on is compiled with a newer Node API version, or with, like say, if we enable the uncaught exception emitting by default for Node API version 10, and I assume, then if the add-on is compiled targeting Node API version 9 or 8 or 7, whatever, the flag, this feature will not be enabled for this add-on.
I see. We're gonna have to do runtime checks for which behavior to use based off of what version the add-on is targeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Yes, that makes sense. Okay, so then the only one that I wanted to comment here is change this as no, not that one, as this one here.
Yeah, I can
change, yeah,
update it now.
just perfect, thank you. Just for some clarifications, because it was a little okay. Does anybody else have anything that they would like to talk about this document? Anything
Yes,
else to
I
do?
like this document. Thank you, Chen Chong, for writing it. One of my kind of question will be about changing NM version. Because I think with the NM version field, actually, it's not about Node API version. I think this field is introduced to a version with a specific NAPI module struct. So I think this first field is about versioning this struct itself. And I wonder if we need to introduce a version with one of these reserved fields instead.
Yeah, actually, I have specifically looked into this field and version usage in the Node.js core. There is two struct. One is an API module, which is used for Node API modules, and the other is the Node modules. You can scroll down to a bit. Yep, the API module to Node module this function. So we have two struct of this module record, and the Node module record is used for the Node add-ons that are not using the Node API. And version in Node module means the Node add-ons that are compiled targeting their targeting version of Node API version. Like say currently it's 108, and So that's exactly what we are trying to, not exactly, but they are very similar. That is to say, which Node API version the add-on is targeting when they are compiled. So the meaning of this field is very similar to what we are expecting from utilizing this field. And currently, Node API modules didn't utilize the M version field in the NAPI module record, since it's a constant value of 1. And when the NAPI module record is transformed to Node module record, the value will be constant -1, which indicates it is a Node API module rather than a normal Node.js add-on, whatever. So currently, this field is not utilized anywhere in Node API implementation. So I believe it is safe to utilize it for our use case here. And you mentioned that about the version of the NAPI module structure. I believe it is not possible, since this structure will never be changed or extended, which is why we reserved for we have 4 reserved bits in this structure, since this structure, to be honest, we cannot change this. We cannot change this structure. It is compiled in the add-on binary, and in order to keep backward compatibility on this already compiled add-on binaries, this structure, to be honest, cannot be changed in any ways. So the version is not related to the structure of this record.
No, this is exactly what this version is right now. And actually, it's this version used today to say this structure version is version 1. And this is how typically, if you look on, for example, some Windows API, how people usually are using first field in a structure to indicate version of the structure. In Windows, they often use kind of size of the structure. And sometimes people using like just number, like what we use here. I don't mind that if we decide to change meaning of it, but we need to be very cautious about it, because we're changing semantic of this field. Currently, the semantic of this field is version of the struct. And I'm kind of surprised that you said we're doing something like this in Node module struct, but Node module was never been kind of ABI safe. But in this case, we talk about ABI safe API, and that's what I believe creators of this struct put different meaning. This is not a Node API version. It specifically says NM version of Node API module struct version. Actually, it's different field.
That makes sense. Would you mind comment on the document so that we can keep track of this problem?
So my proposal, actually, instead of kind of changing meaning of this field, my proposal would be use one of its reserved fields instead.
Yeah, that can be a good alternative.
And we can, if you like, we can change NM version to version kind of number 2 after that. So in this case, we say, okay, we changed the meaning of this stuff. Now we have second version.
I see,
Yeah,
because if you're loading an add-on that's compiled, that's like older compiled that's not using the reserved fields, then maybe they would still have the NM version of 1, but then we have a newer add-on that is using the version fields. So then in order for the engine to know that, the first reserved field is actually the targeted version, in order to like check that, we could compare it to see if NM version is equal to 2 now. Is that sort of what you're saying, Vladimir?
Yes.
Okay, that does make sense.
In this case, we kind of keep semantic of this field.
Right. Okay. Yep. That makes sense. Okay.
Otherwise, we can rename it and say like it's not an M version. We can say Node-API version, and we say like we never can produce new structure. It's another approach. I just don't want us to keep the same name and just put different semantic in this field.
Right. I mean, I like the idea of using one of the reserves as well. I mean, we reserve them for a purpose, right? So I like that idea of increasing the version to signify that one of the reserved fields is now actually being used. I like that.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, so Vladimir, if you would like to comment somewhere on that so that we don't lose on this document, so we don't lose track, and then we can update this prior to making that issue on Node Core to collect feedback.
Okay, I'll do after this meeting.
Mm-hmm. All right, anything else to discuss regarding this? All right, then let us move on. We are on stale issues. Okay. I think we're here. Yes. Okay. So I had some time to. Oh, okay. The PR. Yes, that's where we need to go. I was like, I don't recognize any of that. So Chengzong, you had commented that Signal should not invalidate any of the sent progress, because the previous fix that I had was just to call send progress, which would override any saved progress. So I made a change. Let's open this commit up. And a little bit of more context is that you said we should save a bit of the signal and proceed with null data. So what I added was in here, I added this bool signaled, and this gets set to true inside signal. And inside the on work progress, we read that signaled property and we reset it to false. And then here, if the data is null pointer and it is not signaled, that's when we skip. And then inside send progress, if you call send progress, we also reset the signal to false. Was that something that you were sort of thinking about?
Yeah. But probably I would need to take a deeper look to ensure we
right.
But the first impression is that I believe this is the correct way. So I just need to verify it.
Absolutely. And then since this signal class or method was now changing a member of the instance, it could no longer be const. So that was removed. And then I added a test because you had also mentioned signals should not invalidate sent progress. Would you mind adding a test? So the test that I made was a simple test here that sends progress and then calls signal. And then the on progress handler here errors if the count is not 1. So yeah, if you could take a look at that, that would be great. So that's it for that stale issue. Then we have should handle exceptions in async callback. I think this is one that we've got that the uncaught merged, but we're all discussing how to go about making that change available for module authors. So I think we can move on. This one here, release crashes the renderer process. For a little bit of context, what's happening is a module author wants to store a thread safe function inside an object wrap and then release it on destruction of the object. And they are getting a crash that stems from free environment, which then runs the destructor and the cleanup for the object wrap instance. Then they try to release and then it crashes. And we were thinking that there may be some ordering mishaps or whatnot of maybe the free environment is freeing the thread safe functions first and then freeing the objects. So when it tries to release, it's already freed. That's the context. And there was a related issue or possibly related issue where the Chengzong, you were sort of talking about the cleanup hooks in reverse order, and I just wanted to link those two. Were you able to look at anything regarding the finalization order?
Yeah. Currently, I'm working on a reproduction of the crash you mentioned in that, which is the thread safe function crash. I will need to reproduce it so that I can verify it is the exact problem we are trying to resolve here. So
Okay.
previously we have talked about this problem, and if it is a finalization order problem at a shutdown, then it will be a documentation on a guidance for add-on authors how to release the object created in the how to release the objects in a proper order, just like what we do in Node.js core by checking all of the objects.
Okay.
Yeah. So I will just need to verify that this is the problem we are trying to resolve in another issue.
Okay, that makes sense. Then I think, oh, we have one more here. Migration from the NaN object wrap determine invoke property. We're leaving this one open because the examples repo has a C-based version. And Vladimir, I believe you were planning on adding a C++ version. Has anything gone with that?
Or no progress on it.
Okay. Then that is it for the stale issues. Then we can go down any issues in the repos. Does anybody have anything specific they would like to bring up? Otherwise, we will just go through the list and take a quick peek. All right. Then let's see. Nicola has been working a lot on some of these issues, so they all have really been sort of worked on. I don't think there's anything that is really that's not being worked on, except this one here. This person is getting a crash using electron 18 when the electron reloads. And I think this is, again, going to be similar to the previous crash we saw, but that was related to thread safe functions. However, this person didn't say anything of like what features of Node-API they're using. So it's really hard to see what's going on. So I'll probably just ask here if it's possible to get some sort of repository or code snippet or something for like which
Yeah, we need the minimal
features.
repo, yes.
Yeah. Which Node API features functions you are using? I'll just leave it at that. Okay. That's that. All of the other issues are pretty much being worked on. For example, Nicola has been helping with everyone. So I think we can go to Node Core. There's anything new here? Nothing new here. Then we can go to PRs. Enable Node API. Fixing decide finalizer declare type. Yes, I've seen these sort of in the in email notifications. Chengzong, is there anything that you'd like to discuss about these PRs?
I don't have any specific topics to discuss, but if people can take a look on these PRs, it will be great.
Okay. I mean, we have about 10 minutes left, so we can certainly go through. So this first one is declaring a type for an API cleanup hook. So the function signature can be shared across the code base. One thing that I'm not sure about is, did we discuss that any new symbols should have the Node API prefix instead of NAPI?
This is not symbols, it's a type declaration, but yeah, it will be worth considering the Node API prefix.
Right.
Yeah, I don't have a strong opinion here. I just keep it aligned with the API async cleanup hook, which is the async version of cleanup hook.
Yeah, it would be, I think it may look weird to have something say an API here and then Node API down here. So I think it's okay. But okay, let's see what we have here. If clean or is this here because finalizers were only added in version 3? Or rather cleanup hooks?
The function API at environment cleanup hook is only in the version 3. Yeah.
All right, that makes sense. Then we have some documentation. Function pointer used with add and cleanup hook. It will be called when the environment is being torn down. Callback function must satisfy the following signature. Or in data was packed. Yeah, this looks good to me.
It seems to be a very good change. It's it's surprising that we didn't have this type before.
Right.
Yeah, I just have no idea why we didn't done it before. This one is about a bit purely about documentation. No. We do have a source code change. The primary idea is that not the MPI at finalizer had nothing to do with MPI wrap, since it doesn't support any operations related to MPI wrap, like say MPI unwrap or MPI remove wrap. Both of these functions are not available to this finalizer related APIs. So I would find it a bit weird to mention it is similar to an API wrap, since it doesn't support any operations supposed to be supported by an API wrap. So I find it will be straightforward to just not mention the API wrap if it is not related to API wrap. Yeah. And specifically in the source code change, previously we have the implementing the API at finalizer with the sharing the code path with the API wrap, and we are branching the essential path of the API wrap, and like say I find it's just a little bit weird, since this code path just sharing very few commonalities. They are just creating the implementation reference class, and the other part of the code base of the code path is and they don't have any similarities other than creating a reference on the value. So also you can notice that if we separate those two methods, then the code path can be more straightforward and without any conditional branches. So it will be, in my opinion, it will be more intuitive to look into this implementation if we separate those code paths.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. I'll have to go through this one offline to understand it. Let's see if we can go through this one here. Fix immediate and API remove wrap test. Okay. So see deleted with delete reference
Yeah.
in response.
This is about a test we previously added to duplicating the Node add-on API test in the Node core repo so that we can verify it in the Node core repo more easily. And I just noticed that I previously made a mistake in the order of the calls of an API delete reference and the API remove wrap. Since the API object wrap class, C++ class is a subclass of the API reference. So the API reference destructor should be invoked after the API object wrap destructor. So the API remove wrap, which is located in the destructor of API object wrap, so it should be called before the API delete reference. So that's the intention of this PR, to correct the order of this function calls to make it more aligned with the actual use case in Node add-on API.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. I would want to go through, we have a couple of minutes left. Let's see if we can quickly go through that. NPI we're gonna have a reference. So we have reference calling delete reference, and we have object wrap calling remove wrap, and object wrap is a subclass, or is a object wrap is a child class of reference. Okay, that makes sense. So that's everything what you're saying here. Okay, this makes sense to me. Then I'm going to say this one looks good. Where is my button? I'm going to go here. Okay. All right. So then only one, I'm just going to go through this one offline. Then I think that is it. Does anybody else have anything they would like to bring up before we end this week's call?
I pretty much have a question, like also to change on, like as we kind of going with this version instead of features, is it okay if I change my NAPI ref to start to use these versions instead of features? What do you think? Or you want to implement it separately?
If you are okay with it, I believe it's fine since yeah, I like to say that we didn't have a final conclusion on which alternatives, but if you are okay with the version instead of the feature bits, then I would find it would be straightforward to go ahead with the version, with the runtime version.
I guess my goal is actually to implement ref counting for all values. I think it's, for me, it's most important. If we achieve it with versions, I'm perfectly fine. I don't have any kind of strong attachment to feature bits.
Do you mean if you are do you mean that if you just like to implement the reference part of this issue rather than the runtime version semantics and the related stuff.
Well, I can change this PR to be both. But just saying, like, in this PR, to me, is most important part to have to use an API reference for all value types. It's, to me, it's like the most important part. And as a part of it, instead of using features, I can start to use this version, like as we discussed today.
Right.
About. So I can have like first stab on effectively on what your document describes. If you like.
I was thinking that I'm not hashed to settle down a conclusion for the team. So yeah, it would be great if you took it into the document first, and we can settle down a solution, and all of the team are happy with the solution, so that we can start implementing the final conclusion.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, then I believe we are out of time for this week. So I'll go ahead and end the meeting, and I will catch you guys online and see you all next week.
See you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.